Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I have another layout for the Erica Rose design team. I am still playing along with the Doodlebug Sweet and Spooky collection. Today I am pairing it with this sketch bundle that I had purchased a while back, and I pulled it out to put it into my sketch binders and was just kind of itching to play with more 6x6 sketches, and especially something that is like holiday themed. So I've edited my photos. I did change the size of one of them, and I am removing two photos that are also depicted on the sketch that I used. I like some of these smaller bundles. And just as a reminder, this is a kit from Erica Rose, and I've already done one layout with this kit. So I'm going to go ahead and link that video up here in the eye, because before I cut into anything, I did go through all of the contents and sort of how I sorted through and am storing the vast amount of die cuts that came with this collection. For today, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do as far as papers went. This is just kind of how I tend to start a lot of my processes, is I pull everything out and I sort of just start kind of listening to what is my brain enjoying. It's always going to be B-sides, but I do try to kind of make myself find methods to use papers that I'm not reaching for first, if I can. Today was not that day. Today, I just kind of kept going back to the purple and the mints. For some reason, I was just really liking that color combination. And then I also remembered I went to go grab the die cuts, because when I was originally going through this kit and kind of trying to think of what I wanted to use with it, I remembered this would have been Halloween last year, so 2023. The photos are of my nephew, and he dressed up as a vampire, and I knew there was a vampire in the Doodlebug collection, so I did go and kind of look and see what colors he was, and he had a lot of the mint and the purple, so I'm gonna kind of just play off of that. And when it gets to the embellishing phase, I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit more about sort of narrowing your focus when you've got one of these large kits that overall has a good mix of colors and stuff. But I think it's fun to just kind of focus on a couple colors. So I settled on these panels to do for my background. All of them are B-sides. I think maybe that little splattery one could kind of be an A-side. I'm not sure what's on the other side, but I did like that it kind of just brought in a little bit more of a pattern. This was the pack of tags and things that I still had yet to go through. I'm telling you guys, this kit had so much stuff in it. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling out things that I like, the size, the shape, the overall design of, but are also in that purple, mint, black, and white kind of color family. And I found a lot of stuff that fit within those parameters. At first, I was thinking that I might have to hunt a little bit, but again, when you kind of just start to narrow your focus and you're not looking overall at the entire collection and you're really just looking at specific colors, it can kind of make your choices almost easier. So I did make sure to go ahead and pull out that little vampire kid so that I didn't forget about him. Obviously, I'm going to use more than just those two tags in the vampire. A lot of times when I am pulling product, I will just pull out the things that I know almost before I was going to do the layout that I wanted to use. And I don't really worry about embellishing at this point. Now, I am building my layout on a white textured cardstock, and I almost never do any kind of splatter messy type thing. I was actually on a video chat with Lisa over in Life and Layouts the night that I was doing this, and I was like, I don't know why, but my brain is saying do splatters, so we're just gonna go with that. And she was like, I don't think I've ever seen you do that. And I'm like, I have. It's just very few and far between, because I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't think about. but the end result is really good. So I may need to kind of think of other ways to kind of include this. A lot of times I think I do it on things that are maybe like art themed, or like my kids' color run that they did in elementary school, because it made sense for the theme. For this one, I really just wanted to bring in a little bit more interest to the background. That upper left corner is where I'm going to build like a little mini scene, and then this lower right corner is where I'm kind of intending for my title to end up at. I will say this is a layout that even before I start putting it together, I kind of already know I'm going to skip journaling. This layout, because it is part of Halloween. So for me, things like Halloween, birthdays, Christmas, those type of holidays I know are going to span for sure more than one layout. Like I'm going to have a good chunk in that album that's going to span those holidays. So things like dating and journaling, I will sometimes skip on a layout like this that's just sort of focused on, in this instance, my nephew and his cute little Halloween costume and the little like mini photo session that I had with him. I am a big proponent for you do what makes sense to you. So in this instance, if you were doing a layout like this and you felt like you needed to at least include the kid's name and like his costume choice, then by all means go for that. For me, I know that those details will get covered in journaling in like the companion layouts that go to the party that we were at, the group of kids that we all went trick-or-treating with. Like those kind of details will get covered there. And for me, this was just more of a kind of like an excuse to just have fun, play with product, but still have a layout that is documenting like, how do I explain it? I don't want to say like it's a waste of a layout, because that's 100% not what I'm trying to say. It's more of my personal like method is usually focus on photos, journaling, title, that kind of thing. And then whatever space I have left is where I try to bring in embellishments and interesting techniques and stuff like that. Sometimes I will throw in something like this where it's literally just focusing on product, having fun with the product, but it is still checking those personal needs for me that I don't want to just use like photos that I know I'm going to scrapbook again or that are part of something else. I just kind of wanted to have a little standout layout for his little mini session that I did. I did go ahead and stitch the edges of those pattern paper panels. Now, I wanted to add some borders, and I knew when I was planning this layout that I wanted to have a play on that kind of vampire theme without it being like bloody or like scary. I wanted it to still be cute, but still kind of play within that theme. I took this very, very old Martha Stewart border punch. I think it's called Drippy Goo. I'm not 100%. Sometimes you can catch these on eBay or D-stash groups. These used to be very, very popular. I kept a couple like really theme specific ones when I did a D-stash, and it's just one of those ones that I keep going back to. This is very easy to replicate on like a digital die cutter. You could find a digital border of some kind of, drippy type of icon. You could do this with a border die, all kinds of different options. You don't have to go searching for a 20-year-old punch. But I mention it because it's one of those things that sometimes we forget, these things that we've held on to in our stash, and we've held on to them for reasons like this, because they're so theme specific, and you probably won't find it again. So I punched two borders out with a black, it's a glitter cardstock, but it's really not super shiny. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's got a good texture, and it's got just like a little bit of like a grit to it. I matted my photos on some scrap white cardstock, and then I'm just taking a tiny bit of black distress ink, which mine is kind of getting dry. And I inked the edges, and then I did do the pad directly to the edge of the paper just to kind of make that, like the edge, like the cut edge of the paper, really take the ink so that it's going to stand out against the white background and these papers. Now, I like to take a photo of my layout to remind myself of placement, especially if I'm not 100% sure. I think in this instance, I might have sent Lisa like an in progress photo. Sometimes we'll do that when we're working together because I can't just look over at her desk and be like, oh, that's cute. Or, you know, hey, can you look at this and tell me if this looks balanced? You know, that type of thing. So a lot of times I'll take a quick picture. So if you see that in a video, it's usually either me taking a photo to remind myself of placement or I am like group chat scrapbooking kind of a thing. So even at this point, I'm not 100% sure where everything's going to go. I basically have an idea, like I'm following the sketch, but I'm also kind of beefing it up a little bit with the amount in this cluster. I want to have a little mini scene up here in the upper left. So I picked one of those little houses and I'm going to kind of pick some clouds and stuff. And then around the photos, I just really wanted to fill that in again with more of the die cuts and stickers and stuff that are in that aqua, purple, and black kind of color family. I briefly tried to see if I liked the look of an orange pumpkin mixed in there, and I didn't. There is a little bit of pink and a little bit of orange up in that house, but to me, overall, the house reads in this color palette that I've chosen. And sometimes to me, this is like a way, like when I've done big creating with collection, like Killa collection type projects, when there's this much product, I find it personally a little bit helpful to narrow down my choices by just narrowing down the color palette, if that makes sense. Now, it kind of looks like I went in reverse order, but I didn't. I pretty much was picking all my stuff, figuring out a game plan, and then I had to leave to go do some stuff. So I came back and basically it's time to assemble everything. And as far as like the flat versus foam adhesive thing, I try to keep things as flat as I can. Things like the drippy border, I decided to go ahead and pop up. Normally, I would do like stacked die cut with the border, but I absolutely did not even want to try to attempt to match up layers of that drippy shape. There was no way that I was going to be successful at that. So I chose to do foam adhesive behind the black drippy borders. And then I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to keep things as flat as I possibly can. And then I tend to pick like standout pieces. I did try to show you guys two different methods. The border at the top, I put the foam adhesive directly onto the border and then attached it to my page. This time I put the foam directly to the paper and then put the border on. Just kind of two different methods. I think putting the foam adhesive directly to the background, I was able to keep it a little bit straighter, but a lot of times things on my layouts are crooked and it's just part of the personal style at this point. And then because I've got, especially that bottom border has foam adhesive on it, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and pop up this third photo. It's my favorite photo during this little session, so I kind of just wanted this one to stand out, and I didn't want to pop all of the photos up, so a lot of times I will pop up the one that I want to be like more prominent or just kind of be more playful. So just the one where he's like growling at my camera is popped up with foam. And then I just kind of start picking and choosing different things to tuck here and there. The two photos that I've got adhesive behind, neither one of them I've actually like pressed down really good. I try not to do that until I've gotten all of these like little layering bits down in the place that like they're going to stay in. A lot of times I pull stuff up and move it around, and I tend to rip paper and rip photos. So I've learned to just kind of not give everything a really good push until I'm sure. So the original sketch, like I said, it had like some clustering and some, I think the title was more kind of in the area where the vampire is. This is the part of the process where I start kind of going off on my own, and the overall design is still there. I decided that because I'm having fun and I'm using a lot more product, to basically just kind of take the clustering around the photos and just expand it and make it bigger and just find more things to tuck in. And then we're going to make some dickers and we're going to do a title. I eventually settled on Too Cute to Bite. When I'm trying to come up with a title, a lot of times I look at the sticker sheets, the die cuts, like the phrases and stuff. I'll look online. I can't remember where I finally settled on this one. I think I just was kind of looking at like Google, like caption ideas and stuff like that. It's super simple. I think it was based on a play of like there's a bunch of different titles where it's like Too Cute to Spook, Too Cute to Trick, Too Cute to, all those. So I just went with Too Cute to Bite. I did want something that was vampire themed without being like I said before, I didn't want anything like scary, bloody, nothing like that, because to me, he's so young that he was just a cute vampire. He wasn't like the scary kind. So normally I will do layers of white cardstock for the base layers on Dickers. With this one, I did black cardstock. I really just kind of wanted the whole letter when you look at it from the side or you catch glimpses of it from the side. I wanted the whole thing to be black. And this is one of those like good uses for cardstock scraps. So like if you were doing Dickers with just colored cardstock, like say pink, orange, yellow, whatever, if you do all of your layers with the colored cardstock, it looks really good, like all together. Typically I tend to use pattern paper for my top layer, so that's kind of why I almost always pull white cardstock for my layers, but I really like this kind of look of the whole thing all the way through is, coordinated to your layout. So the Too Cute to, that is this, I kind of call them like finicky fonts. They look so good when they're done, but they're fiddly. So I use this matte trick that I talked about in my Dickers video. I will link it above in the eye as well. I think that one's the Uptown. I will double check. The alphabet fonts and stuff I will list in the description box. Anything I can find that I think you guys might ask about, I will link it. Now, at this point, I was like, I really need some mint paper to put on the word bite. But I've used up all of the smaller version of this from the 6x6 pad. And this was my favorite pattern, which is why I haven't used it yet. So I was really good, and I made sure to gut it in a way that when I come back and make another layout, I can use that frame portion as like a border on a layout. And then I just cut like a 2-inch strip to do my Dickers with. And normally I just cut them and don't pay attention to direction. But if I'm doing Dickers on a pattern like this, where you can really see like the direction, I will lay them out in the correct order of spelling, assuming I can spell it right that day, so that when they cut out, the pattern lines up. Not lines up. What? I don't know how. You guys know what I'm saying. Like, nothing's turned upside down. Nothing's like sideways. Like it looks like it was cut like how I cut it. I don't know how to explain it. Words are hard today, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead, add these to the top of these Dickers. And then I will say, when I first decided to make this layout, I knew that I wanted to use that drippy goo border punch to make my Dickers fit the theme as well. I had 2 recent videos that I used a frosted one from My Favorite Things. However, that one is still sold out everywhere. It's really hard to get. That one would have been a really good one to use in this instance because it's supposed to be frosting, but it's still drippy, and it would have been really good in this kind of context. I decided that I was going to use that punch and kind of show you guys like a DIY method to do that. I talked about it in the Dickers video, and I've talked about it in my group and stuff, where you can literally look at things like border punches, border dies, almost anything, embossing folders, so many different variations that you can do when you're die cutting alphabets like this to amp it up and give it way more dimension, way more interest, have it really match like a specific theme, so many different things. And I've mentioned in the past that if you can't find the like frosted alphabet, you could totally take a border punch and do it yourself. You could do it with this, you could do it with that. So today it was like, girl, you need to walk the talk. You need to do it and show it. I will say I should have done it before I started gluing these letters down. that was problem number one. It was when I went to glue down the I that I was like, whoa, I'm not gonna be able to get these on here. So I went and took the scraps of that black glitter and I cut some strips of it. I did take a black Copic marker and just colored the white edges. It was just a personal choice. I liked it completely black. I didn't like the little white peeking through. And then I just took some little detail scissors and I tried to be like super careful and cut it to be just a tiny bit wider than the letter. Because I'm doing a border punch and some scissors, I'm not going to get that like perfectly like rounded edge that you get when you do die cutting, but it worked fine. You could totally do this with so many other different types of border punches, dies. In the Dickers video I shared where I punched a scallop border and then I put the big letters on it and cut it out that way. I did test that method with this specific border punch and it didn't work because of the fact that the drips hang down. And like the E, for example, when I cut the E into the border strip, it cut the little drips off and I wanted it to overhang. So it's one of those things, sometimes you just have to kind of do like a test run and see what works, what doesn't work, and kind of go from there. So I was really happy with how that turned out. Definitely think I'm going to revisit this. I would really like to see it in like a more mature version and maybe do like red and have it be more of like a scary, spooky version. So that's kind of in my back pocket for a different kind of Halloween layout. And then this is where I go back to things like the sticker sheet, the die cut pack, and I start finding just more elements. I start looking at things that are smaller. I start looking at things like little phrases, little speech bubbles. And again, I'm looking at the color of things. I'm looking at the size and I'm looking at the color. I kind of bypassed all those stars for some reason. And I really thought about trying to fit like some candies in there. Overall, I was like, no, I think I just want to do these two little speech bubbles, some of these phrases, and I think today, yes, this was the one I pulled back out the enamel shapes, which I can't figure out if I'm not using the little ghosts because I think they're too cute and I need to save them, which tells me immediately I need to use them. Like, we're not going to save things because they're too cute. We're going to use them because they're so cute is the mentality that I've adopted in the last couple of years. Like, no more saving things for a quote unquote perfect project. That perfect project doesn't exist. Put it on the layout. I did find a little sticker that said 1031 in black, so I went ahead and put that on there. I was going to use those bats from the Doodle Pop, but they were really thick. I think there's like 3 layers of dimension to those, and I really just wasn't in the mood to do surgery on them today. So I ended up using all of the like enamel bats from the enamel sprinkle shape things. And then I used all of the stars and the dots that were in the purple and mint colors. And I just kind of found different little places to kind of bring them in. And I try to kind of go in order of size with embellishments. Like I try to use the big stuff first because it's going to fill up the most space. And then when I get towards the end of the layout is when I go back through and I'm like, is there any other like little things that I can squeeze in here and there? So with that, that is my completed layout. Links below to Erica's store. Use my name, Nicole, in the code and you get 15% off. And anything I can think of to link to as far as product will be in the description box below. As always, I thank you guys for spending time with me, watching my channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and here is some more content for you, and I'll catch you later.